How can you turn FOMO into JOMO? How can you turn fear of missing out into joy of missing out? Nowadays, it's very common when you're given an opportunity, maybe for a new job, maybe for a new opportunity to travel, a new project, to feel that if you turn it down, you're missing out on something. And this comes from our desire to have as many experiences as possible, to take the most that we can out of life. Often, however, this doesn't actually work out as we planned. And this is because there's always a cost to any opportunity that we take. Opportunity costs come with everything from changing your work to even going for an evening out. That comes at a price. Maybe there's other things you could be doing at home, or maybe you could start the day earlier the next day. And so there's always a cost to every opportunity. Likewise, there's always a gain to every opportunity. There's always something you can learn or get from taking that offer. And so it's a matter of weighing, is the cost worth it versus the gain that you're going to obtain? So let's look, for instance, at quitting your full-time job to start your company. The cost from that is maybe certainty or stability, at least to begin with. And then this might be the gain to having your own company would be the fun, the excitement, the novelty, the learning. And then you need to sense which is greater. Mostly you can find out by checking in with yourself which feels most aligned and which feels right for you. And for this, you need to go away from all external influences, to not be too biased by what other people think, and instead to really observe in yourself what feels aligned and what feels right for you. I recently had the opportunity to go and live abroad in San Francisco for a whole year. And in that moment, I really had to weigh what would be the opportunity cost and what would be the gain. The gain comes to me easily because I love change and variety. So I could think building a new network, traveling, being in California, going to Yosemite Park, many beautiful places. So the gain of living in San Francisco was pretty obvious. And then I started to weigh the costs of building a network from scratch, of shifting my entire professional business from more Europe-based to US-based. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I actually felt joy of missing out. I actually felt the joy of not going and taking that opportunity. And I know this sounds strange, especially to me, because I love traveling and opportunities and new ideas and new places and new projects. But I actually realized that what I already have is something that I can build on. So the shift was very subtle, but instead of feeling that pull, that fear I'm missing out, and it could be so much fun, and why am I not going? I started to see everything I had to gain by staying where I am, building on what I already have, carving greater relationships, both socially and professionally, continuing to build certain aspects, continuing with certain hobbies that I have installed here. So I'm not saying avoid change at all costs. That's not true. A lot of people have a bias where they hate change. And maybe in your case, you need to look a bit more at the opportunity gain and start to take a bit more risk and embrace change. But what I'm saying is that anytime there's an opportunity, anytime that you can take on a new project, a new concept, and fly somewhere new or do something different, there is a cost all the time, and that sometimes we forget this. And if you're the sort of person who defaults to saying yes, if you're the sort of person who really struggles with saying no, you might want to observe what happens when you say yes to this, how that impedes on other aspects of your life. You might want to start observing how each of your yeses is impacting all the other areas in your life. So this is really an opportunity to start shifting our mindset around fear and thinking that if you don't take that opportunity, it makes you smaller. This is the ego trying to be bigger by doing more things and having more opportunity and growing a greater identity. And instead start to see, what are you gaining by not just staying put, but building on what you have? because there's gain from turning down opportunities. Every time you say no to a project, every time you say no to another activity, you have more space and time and energy to do something else. And if you're using that time and energy and attention to build on something that's worthwhile, to actually build on something that's meaningful for you, then maybe it's not worth you taking that other thing. And for this, like I said earlier, you really need to tune in to yourself and see, does it feel aligned? Does it feel good for you? And not base it on other people's opinions or what you think other people would like to see you do or expect of you, because that can really drain your energy and that can really shift the way you think. So I hope this is useful for you. Just keep in mind, anytime there's a big opportunity, start to weigh it, start to see the gain of taking it, but also the cost, the opportunity cost and everything, and weigh your priorities in a way that you can actually see by saying yes to certain things that it'll take away from others. This is a bit draining at first to look at the opportunity cost and gain all the time, but after a while, it just becomes second nature. And the more you're, especially if you're CEO of your own business, it'll just become your default way of thinking. Okay, if I say yes to this podcast interview, that takes away an hour of my time where I could be doing da-da-da-da-da-da. Is it worth it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And that involves a lot of decision making, which is why sometimes it's a bit draining, which is why sometimes we just default to yes or just default to no, because really sitting down and making a decision can be tiring and take a lot of energy, but it's worth it. And it helps you to live aligned and purpose-driven and with joy. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Subscribe to the channel if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave a review or comment on the podcast. I always read them and it always fills me with joy. And also let me know what sort of episodes will you be interested in hearing in the future. Thank you for tuning in.